As we move throughout our day, we encounter many people. Our brains are hardwired to make snap conclusions about each person we see. Important parts of a person's identity may not be readily apparent, or can be easily overlooked. Take a look at the statements and pictures in this circle. Which statement or statements go with which picture? The truth is that every statement above can apply to one, two, or all of these people. People are multifaceted. Depending on your life experiences, there are some aspects of a person's identity you will miss, and other aspects you will assume to know. The issue isn't whether you will make an incorrect snap judgment. We all do it. The issue is recognizing areas where your assumptions may be incorrect, and finding ways to work past them. This presentation is going to introduce you to the idea that gender identity is one of four aspects of a person's identity where assumptions can be incorrect. It will also provide you with some common terms used when discussing gender identity, and ways you can be an ally to people whose gender identity differs from what society expects. There are many different aspects of a person's life experiences that contribute to their sense of self, but there are four core identities which affect how a person views themselves as they move throughout life. The first core identity is with us from the moment we are born. This is our birth sex. We are labeled with a sex depending on what genitalia we are born with. This is usually a cut and dry designation of male or female, but not every child can be labeled easily. According to the Intersex Society of North America, roughly 1 in 1,500 to 1 in 2,000 are born with genitalia atypical enough that a specialist must be called in for consultation. Whatever sex ends up on our birth records, it will have a profound effect on how we are treated from that moment on in society. The second core identity is not usually discovered until we approach puberty. This is sexual attraction, which represents the people who we are emotionally, mentally, and physically attracted to romantically. There is enough scientific and anecdotal evidence available to show that this is an innate characteristic. A person can't choose who they are attracted to, any more than they can choose what color of eyes they have. It can be covered up, but it can't be changed. The third core identity is gender identity, which is our internal perception of being male or female. Much like sexual attraction, this identity is with us from our childhood. If your gender identity matches your birth sex, you may never have considered the fact that this perception even exists. For those people whose gender identity doesn't match their birth sex, it can be an all-consuming issue needing to be resolved. There are people who do not feel simply male or female. Some report perceiving themselves as both male and female, and others who see themselves as neither. A common term for people who don't identify simply as male or female is genderqueer. The fourth core identity is gender expression. This is the way that a person chooses to portray themselves to the world through the way they dress, do their hair, and adorn their bodies with either jewelry or makeup. How masculine and feminine these choices are depends on where you live, since different societies have varying ideas of how men and women should physically portray themselves. By combining these four identities, a more complete picture can be made of a person. Please notice that of the four identities, only one can really be perceived at first glance: gender expression. All other identities can easily be misperceived based on our assumptions of an individual because of their outside appearance. You see people daily whose birth sex, sexual attraction, and gender identity is not what you assume they are. One way to visualize how these identities play out together is to put them on a continuum line, showing the range of possibilities in each area, and then take a look at all four together side by side. If a person is born female, is attracted to men, perceives themselves as a woman, and dresses femininely, then a line across the four identities would be straight. A straight line could also be drawn on the opposite side for a person who is born male, attracted to women, who perceives themselves as a man, and dresses masculinely. These are the two identities mainstream society automatically assumes when they see someone whose gender expression is either male or female. But what does it look like if someone's identities don't line up? Just because a person is born male and looks masculine doesn't mean that they're attracted to women. It doesn't mean that they perceive themselves as a man either. Many people continue to dress to society's expectations rather than face ridicule or violence. And while that woman you see who looks tomboyish may be attracted to women, she may also have been labeled male at birth. So looking at this table again, where do you fall? Does it stay the same, or does it change from day to day or year to year? There are so many people in the world, imagine all the combinations that are possible. Yes, some combinations are more common than others, but it doesn't mean that those that happen less frequently are wrong or bad. Many of us are familiar with terms used to talk about different types of sexual attraction and gender expression. Terms used for birth sex and gender identity may not be as familiar. The terms here are not being offered to label anyone. They are being provided as words used to discuss the diversity that exists. The terms and their meanings may change over time and may not be acceptable to every person. Please remember, the only labeling that should be done is by an individual themselves. Gender nonconforming, someone whose gender expression differs from society's norms for their birth sex. Many gender nonconformists do not identify as transgender. Transgender, an umbrella term used to indicate a person whose gender identity or expression differs from the sex they were assigned at birth. Cisgender, a person whose gender identity is aligned with the sex they were assigned at birth. Transsexual, an individual whose gender identity is different from the sex they were assigned at birth. They desire to live full-time as the gender they identify with. Genderqueer, a catch-all term for those individuals who do not identify solely as either male or female. They may identify as both male and female, neither male or female, or something else entirely. Crossdresser, a person who crosses gender boundaries by the way they dress part of the time. They usually have no desire to take the steps to transition as a transsexual person would. Trans woman, or M to F, a person whose birth sex was assigned male, but whose gender identity is female, male to female. They may or may not choose to pursue hormonal or surgical methods to align their body with their gender identity. Intersex, a general term used for a variety of conditions in which a person is born with a reproductive or sexual anatomy that doesn't seem to fit the typical definitions of female or male. Trans man, or F to M, a person whose birth sex was assigned female, but whose gender identity is male, female to male. They may or may not choose to pursue hormonal or surgical methods to align their body with their gender identity. Drag king, a person who dresses and performs as a male for entertainment purposes. Their gender identity may or may not be male. Drag queen, a person who dresses and performs as a female for entertainment purposes. Their gender identity may or may not be female. So what can you do to be an ally to someone you know who is transgender, or to the transgender community at large? First, don't out someone who is transgender without their permission. It can be dangerous to their safety, and you are taking away their right to privacy. The decision to share this is a personal one and should be left to the person to decide when, where, and how to share that information, and with whom. Validate a person's gender identity. The easiest way to do this is to use the pronouns appropriate to the gender identity the person identifies as, and the name they have chosen to go by. If you don't know the correct pronouns to use, just ask. If you make a mistake, correct yourself and move on. If you hear someone else using the wrong pronouns or name, gently correct them. Never refer to a trans person as a he, she, or an it. This is very hurtful and demeaning. Only ask questions that will help you be an ally. Avoid questions that are just to feed your own curiosity. Don't ask about a person's genitalia or how they have sex. You wouldn't ask this to another acquaintance over coffee. Challenge your own assumptions of gender and the way it relates to how people act, dress, live, and work. Don't expect all people to conform to your society's expectations of gender-appropriate roles and behaviors. Don't question a transgender person's motives. It is not a fad or a phase. When people come out as transgender, it is usually after many years of soul-searching and considering how the disclosure will affect their lives. It is not a case of someone wanting to transition so they can be heterosexual rather than homosexual. Remember, gender identity is completely separate from sexual attraction. Don't assume all trans people are eager to educate society. Many trans people just want to live their lives and don't want to be seen as a poster child or spokesperson. Ask if a person is willing to speak about trans issues before bombarding them with questions related to their life experiences and perspectives. Set an example to others. How you talk to and about trans people will affect how other people perceive them. Your opinions and behaviors as a cisgender person hold more weight in society than those of trans people. Educate yourself and take action. There are many great websites and books available to learn more about transgender people and the struggles they face. Take the time to learn the protections and challenges they have in your community and find ways to make changes locally to improve their lives. Just remember, being an ally doesn't mean you know everything about trans people. It just means you are willing to learn and challenge yourself to be a more intentional ally. Here are some organizations where you can find more information and support to become an intentional ally. You can also check your local LGBT community or support center for additional information.